And today we are joined by Cory at CEFCU. And Cory is going to talk to us about financial fraud and different ways that through text, email, and all the different ways that criminals try to get access to our money and take our money from us, which nobody likes. Um, Cory's going to talk to us about what those scams are, what those frauds are, and how these criminals are trying to do this stuff, and how you, as a consumer, can do your best, whether your money's in a bank or credit union, to spot these kind of things, to raise the red flag, to go to your financial institution and get the help and assistance that you need to keep yourself from being victimized or victimized further, and to help raise the concerns when you start seeing a trend of these kind of things, because you never know, might be one of the first people that it happens to in a while. If you raise a red flag, maybe you might be able to stem off this from happening to some other people. So I'm really excited about this conversation because unfortunately this is something that happens way too frequently. There's far too many people, bad actors in this world that want to try to take advantage of people's hard-earned money. And it's really important to talk about these kind of things because they're going to always try their best to try and take your money. So without further ado, we are going to introduce Cory. All right, so here we are with Cory, like I said, with CEFCU, to talk to us about the financial fraud, scams, schemes, the attempts that, like I said, all the criminals and bad guys try to do out there, and there's tons of them. But we were just talking a minute ago, and I really agree with what we were talking about off the air here about it's not all really like doom and gloom. There's good news. There's ways that you would like to share that there's some very simple steps, some simple things if you pause and just kind of think about it, like to really kind of avoid being a victim of these things. So, what can you share with us about that?
Yeah, right. And I wanted to start out because there is really good news that with some very simple reminders, all consumers can arm themselves immediately and be better positioned to avoid the traps of these scams. First off, screen your calls coming in. Send those unknown callers to voicemail. Legitimate companies, if it's your doctor's office or your bank, they're going to leave a message if they need to get a hold of you.
It's a good
So
point.
allow them to do that. And then you take control of when you want to call them back and at what number. So don't just immediately trust a contact phone number they leave for you. Is that really CEFCU's number? Go to our website and verify it. We'll get you back to the right person that was trying to reach out to you.
And if it's a company that has just a handful of phone numbers and you contact them pretty regularly, just put the phone number in your address book
Sure,
in your phone,
sure.
and then it's going to come through
Right,
as that phone number.
right. Yeah, use that contact list to legitimize those callers
Yeah.
and so you recognize who it is. Unfortunately, caller ID in general, you can't trust anymore because they can spoof it. And so we have to unlearn some of those habits where, caller ID in years past was there was no reason not to trust it until bad actors use that as a way to get in and earn your trust and take advantage of it. And now you got to just kind of pause and um, don't just immediately trust.
That's, I think, for people of a certain age and up, that's what's really hard is you just kind of think of that caller ID as like, oh, hey, John Doe's calling. I see the number, I see the name pop up, John Doe, cool, I'm going to answer it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you hear that pause and that click and that automated thing. Or for me, it's I'm trying to remember which one I get the most, but then it's like so not even relevant. Like, I want to verify my age. And it's like, gosh, I'm like 40. Like I am nowhere near old enough for that,
Mm-hmm.
like it's like, come on. A lot of times it's like these companies or spammers or whatever, they're just trying to throw enough spaghetti at the wall and see if one of the strings hits and sticks.
Absolutely. These are so random, these connections. often are, they don't know who they're really calling, but they can latch on to enough information out of those initial greetings and build upon that and earn that trust, and then take that very far within the scam. They're very clever.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't
So
take a whole lot of information.
no, it doesn't. And thinking back of how it played out, um, it'd be interesting to have some of these recordings to just kind of listen back at how it went from a greeting to where they bank, and oh yeah, what we know about that and your account there, and there's just a trust of that person immediately, right out of the gate.
Yeah, account information is a very interesting one because I don't really know too many places that are just going to call you and ask for any kind of account information, banks or any other kind of institution of any type that's going to just call you and try to verify some sort of account information over the phone. It should pretty much be a red flag at any point in time.
It's a
It's like the old saying of like
huge,
trust but verify.
exactly.
Like,
Well, that's a huge differentiator. So, your legitimate financial institution, if they're calling you, they have your account. There's no need to ask you for that. So, when you have your legitimate bank or credit union on the phone to verify suspicious activity, your conversations with them should really be pretty short yes, no answers. We do in practice reach out to verify suspicious debit and credit card transactions. So if we do that, we're going to ask, were you using your card for this amount at this merchant on this date?
or
Yes. Or
gas stations. I've had that one myself. Unfortunately, the gas station skimmers and those kind of things. It's unfortunately way too common there. I don't know if that was one thing in particular we're going to get into, but I've had that. Like you swipe at a certain gas station who's had a problem with the skimmers.
right.
Boom, gets flagged, and then you got to go. Yes, it was me. Yes, I was buying gas. Yes, it's legit. But it's nice to know that
And we
your
are.
institution is checking those kind of things.
Right.
I think there's multiple institutions that are aware of those kind of things at those kind of places, and it's not that particular gas station's fault. It's maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know, but at least the financial institutions are aware of it and taking the proactive steps.
And 24/7, we're monitoring for suspicious activity. And because you, our cardholders, are protected against unauthorized activity on your account. So we want to make sure if something looks suspicious, we're validating that with you. So when you get a notification about suspicious activity, if it's a call, a text message, an email, react, but don't panic react to that. Pause and really read the whole message, read it again, look at where it's being sent from. Is it out of area phone number, but coming from a local business? Like, that's strange. CEFCU, if we were going to be contacting you, we would contact you from a short code, which is a good way to legitimize that text message. Or you're going to see a 309 or a local phone number reaching out to you, not New York City, where some
Yeah.
of our fake, fraud alert smishing messages tend to originate from.
Or even worse, something with a out of country
And
digit
they do
code or
that
something.
too.
Yeah.
With the tollway scams, our international numbers that are sending these tollway, unpaid tollway dues. Well, why would Illinois Tollway be outsourcing that to a phone number out of the country? It
That should be
doesn't
an
make
absolute
sense.
dead giveaway. I've actually had that one happen to me. They tried to get me with that one, and I was like, good try. Because I haven't been anywhere near a tollway
But
in like
enough
2
people,
years.
and they'll send it out to enough people,
Yep.
and plenty of them will think, well, I know I did just take a trip to Chicago. I might have missed a toll, and I'd rather pay $5 then get a ticket for far more down the road. So there's enough believability for enough people that they send it to that continues to make it lucrative. And all they're after is to get your card information. And then they're going to commit the real fraud on your account. So when you're getting an unexpected message and there's a link that takes you somewhere and you're not really sure where you landed, but it's asking you to put information in, whether it's card number or your online banking login credentials, stop. Don't put it in there. You need to maintain control of where you're accessing and putting your information in online. So that kind of brings me to search engines. So it's so much safer that if you know the website you want to go to, type in the address bar www.cefcu.com. Like, go straight there. And if you go there often, put it in as a favorite, and one click, you're there. Avoid going to a search engine like Bing or Google and searching for CEFCU online banking. And then you get results of all these links and immediately trust that top one that pops up. And unfortunately, they take advantage of that. And so bad actors can
Yeah, somebody
pay.
can pay to put that
They
there.
create fictitious sites that mirror what our online banking login looks like. And our members will just out of habit, start putting in their login ID, their password. They get a prompt for that secure access code. They're not logging into CEFCU online. They're on a spoofed site, and somebody on the back end of that is taking all that information and they're logging into their account. And as you've given them all those pieces of information, you've given them the key to your account. They have your account number. They have access to start transacting on the account. So they're going to look at how can they move money out through.
Oh yeah, somebody's sitting in an office somewhere, fist pump in the air, and they're like, "We got one."
Got it, yeah.
Yeah, they
And
just got everything you had in your account or
our
accounts.
info security team is works tirelessly to
Probably really
detect these fake sites that are popping up daily and take them down, but they're up for just long enough to capture even a handful of credentials, and they can do a lot of damage with that. So then my fourth point is secure access codes. So what I'm talking about is when you're logging into something and it prompts you with a text message that will be like a 5 or 6 digit code that you have to enter in addition to your password. There's language in there, and listen to the language, read it. It says, do not share this code. We go as far in our message to say, not even with a CEFCU employee. There is no business reason that a CEFCU employee is going to ask you for that secure access code. We don't want it. We have no reason to do that. And so that's your authentication piece to have the trust that you are the owner of the account and logging in, and we can do that multi-factor validation with you. When you give that code out to somebody else, you're giving them access to the account, and they're gonna
Yeah,
try
because now
to
it looks
talk
like
you
it's
out
actually
of,
you at a different computer, different IP location, maybe, but it still looks like
but
it's you.
with that code, you get in, and so they will try to talk our members out of it. And if they question, well, it says not to share this. Oh, don't worry about that. That's just legal. We just have to put that in there. Go ahead and read that to me. Don't listen to them. We craft that message with very a specific purpose that do not share it. Listen to those warnings. And with those little habits like that, you can avoid some of the most common pitfalls that lead into the scams that members lose a lot of money to, unfortunately.
Yeah, because you definitely don't want that to happen. I kind of said that in the intro to this is like, this is something everybody should be aware of because this is everybody's hard-earned money. And the last thing anybody wants to do is just click on something, follow it, do something they think is legit, and wake up the next morning go get their morning coffee at Starbucks or whatever, and card denied. And it's like, well, gosh, I have like $2,000 in this account. What the heck? I should have enough for my $4, $5 coffee,
Mm-hmm.
whatever Starbucks charges these days, and sure enough, you log in. Hopefully, it's your legitimate site, and nothing. It's gone. It, of course, then your mind's gonna be like, well, A, where did it go? And B, how am I gonna pay my mortgage? How am I gonna buy food for
Mm,
the kids? And like, where do you go from there?
right.
That's your hard-earned money.
Absolutely.
How many hours did you have to work for all that? Yeah, how
Absolutely.
many more hours you have to work to replenish that and secure it all? And so, got to really watch all that, and really watch out for, um, the vulnerable populations, those who, senior citizens, those who may fall more victim to those kind of things. So, but so I really appreciate those thoughts on that. But I was curious if you had any insight on maybe what some of the top five, fraud scams kind of were, and if you could kind of explain a little bit what some of those are, what CEFCU is at least seeing.
Right. And everyone is a target. If you have a phone or an email address, consider yourself likely to be on the receiving end of some attempt to scam you. But certainly we have uh, parts of our community that may be more vulnerable to that. So, um, some of our top scams that we've been seeing lately. So, first, it would be our CEFCU fraud department imposter scam. This continues to
Interesting.
come up. So they pose as us doing what seems to be a common practice of ours to reach out and notify of suspicious activity. And there are, our members are immediately engaged with that because, of course, they want to stop suspicious activity
Sure, I
on
mean, it
their
seems
account.
very
Yeah,
legit from the
right,
get go.
right. And so immediately they're engaged and willing to participate in that call. But there are some telltale signs that would clue you in that that's not CEFCU. So first of all, like I had mentioned, the calls with us are going to be pretty short, straightforward, yes, no kind of validation answers. We're never going to ask you for your card number, for a password, and never for that secure access code. That's what they're after. And when you give that out and you think you're talking to CEFCU, you don't really have reason to kind of doubt what you just did. And they'll keep them on the hook for hours, for days, thinking that I've got Bryce at CEFCU handling this for me. And all the while, Bryce is stealing money out of your account, but he's told you he's taking care of it, and you're not able to log in at the moment, so don't even try. But we're getting this taken care of. So that kind of delays our ability to respond and secure those accounts because our member thinks they've already engaged with us. And meanwhile, they've engaged with
And since they
somebody
think they
doing
do,
the
they're not even
opposite.
contacting you actually.
Right. Right.
So you're delaying it by a couple of
Not
days
yeah.
until they actually, I'm assuming most of the time, start to actually kind of wonder and actually log in, and then oops.
Mm-hmm. Right. So once they do finally make their way to us, there's a lot of confusion, and that is so frustrating for the team because now we have to regain that trust back with them and like assure them, no, I actually do work at CEFCU, and if you're talking to someone legitimate and you're not really sure who to trust, we would encourage you, like, you hang up and you go call like our general number and ask to speak with me when you reach our contact center, and they'll get you routed back to me. Like, we love members that have a little bit of their guard up with us because that's good. If you have it up with us, please make sure you have it up with other people calling you that you're not expecting to be talking to.
Good. It's a good point. And like you said earlier, you're not going to ask for somebody's account number. So if somebody were to be fraudulently doing that as a consumer, you could say, hey, you know what? I got multiple accounts. Could you just tell me what the last two digits of that account are?
And yeah, you can test them back,
Just something
but
simple like that,
even
because it's just the last two digits.
and even more simple than that, just don't engage with it if you're questioning it at all, because they have ways to manipulate that, and they will do something to convince you it's really them.
Yeah, if they're
They're
really
very
good, yeah,
clever.
they'll find a way around
And
that.
that's
But
where it's like, take back control of that call, end it, and start it with a trusted number. Um, a
yeah, I
new
guess you could just
twist,
ask me like, hey, can I just get your name? I'm kind of busy at the moment. I'll have to call you back.
right? And they don't want the bad actor doesn't want you to call them back, because they're not going to give you the legitimate number of CEFCU to call back.
Of
They're
course
they're
not.
somewhere far
But just play
different
hardball on
than.
that. Be like, I am busy at the moment. I will have to call you back. Please give me your
Mm-hmm.
name.
Mm-hmm. And it's not rude at all. And
Nope.
when we call out and the member isn't available right then to work with us on something, we're happy to have you call us
Yeah,
back.
I mean, sometimes you're at the grocery store, sometimes you're at work,
Right.
sometimes maybe you got a baby and you're in the middle of changing a diaper. I mean,
Right.
who knows, right? You could
Yeah.
be doing anything.
And
Like, you
even if
just
you're
don't have the
not,
time right then and there to do it.
right.
Maybe you need 5 minutes or 10 minutes.
Right. And even if you're not, use it as an excuse to get out of that
Exactly.
call and do a little bit of homework before you re-engage. So another twist on these imposter scams of late is the FTC. So Federal Trade Commission is very actively involved in scam awareness. You report scams to the FTC. Now our members are reporting that they're getting contacted by an agent of the FTC who is investigating CEFCU. And they convince our member their money is not safe with CEFCU. They're investigating fraud. And what branch do you usually go and do your business at? And they'll say the branch. Oh, yeah, that's the one we have our eyes on, and we've already had this amount of fraud there. So here's what we need you to do. And they'll recruit them to even be part of like a sting operation at one of our branches, and give them very like clear instructions to come in, do a large cash withdrawal, and they'll say, you're on surveillance the whole time, we'll be watching you, and don't touch the cash with your bare hands because we need to get the fingerprints lifted off of it once we get that. And so we've had several cases of members coming in taking large cash withdrawals.
Wearing gloves, I'm assuming.
I can't say for sure, but definitely not touching, the
Wow.
cash. They're then
Okay.
instructed, so it gets more wild, and they're then instructed to box the cash up and mail it to an address that they're
I was
given.
wondering how they were going to get their hands on it.
Right.
That makes sense.
In some cases, they arrange a pickup from
And they're
their
probably only asking for a
house.
couple $1,000s, so it's not.
More than
Oh,
that.
more than that. Oh,
Yeah, there's been some significant
wow.
transaction losses with this.
I
They
figured it'd
may
be easier to
arrange.
probably convince people with just a few $1,000s, but it's very large.
They may arrange an undercover agent to come to your house and pick that box up, or they'll give you instructions to go take the cash and feed it into a Bitcoin ATM and deposit it. They'll give you a QR code
Wouldn't
so
that
it
be like a
knows
form
what
of
wallet to
laundering
go.
that way?
Well, this is all financial crime, money laundering
Wow.
schemes
Holy cow.
of some nature. So, for starters, to make it abundantly clear, your money on deposit at CEFCU is insured by the NCUA up to $250,000. If you have more on deposit with us than that, that coverage can go beyond that if we use a different combinations of account structures. We can really maximize that coverage. So rest assured your funds are safe at CEFCU. Second, the FTC is not recruiting consumers to partner up with them on investigations. If you go to their website, they even have a big warning that says scammers are impersonating the FTC. will never threaten you, say you must transfer your money to protect it, or tell you to withdraw cash or buy gold and give it to someone. That's a scam. So there's so much information out here, and trust these companies that are telling you this. No legitimate organization's ever going to tell you to lie to your financial institution. So what these cases are leading to is, the member thinks that they're working with the FTC, that they're making this transaction to secure their money, but they're coming in and they're saying, I'm doing home repairs and I need this cash so that I can pay my contractor and get a cash discount for it. And we probe. Our branches do a fantastic job of asking effective questions to listen for these red flags that we're very aware of. And unfortunately, because we find out after the fact and it's too late. And so they're educated and they want very much to kind of break through those barriers and really understand, is there something more going on here? So we're not trying to be nosy. We're not passing judgment on you for taking money out of your account. We're really trying to identify, is this really what's happening? And save you from going and boxing your money up and sending it. So be honest with us. No one is ever gonna legitimately tell you to come in and lie to us.
I mean, it could certainly seem like it if you're going in to get, I don't know, $10,000 cash out to go buy a car or pay a contractor, but it could, I could see how that could feel intimidating with somebody asking some question. Like, why are they asking so many darn questions about what I'm doing with the money? But if you ask it 9 times and it's all legit for that 10th time, when it is,
I mean,
that's what it's worth.
there's nothing in it for us other than to save you from losing your money, and it is met with some pushback from our members. And sure, it is your money, and you can do with it what you like, but I don't think you want to lose it in these scams. And we want to make sure you've not been fed misinformation and go do something that we cannot help you with after the fact. So we're really trying to catch that at the point of the transaction. Nothing but your best interest at heart.
Well, the point of financial institutions is to take money and help people's money grow, not shrink and disappear, especially in the hands of criminals. Because they're pretty darn good at taking it.
They are, and what they're using it for is concerning.
Yeah. I mean, don't you want it in your own hands instead of on somebody's private yacht in the middle of the Caribbean?
Right.
While they're still on their computer trying to get somebody else's money?
Right.
So, those are mind-boggling. The FTC one, holy cow. I was not expecting that. That's crazy. Now I'm very curious on my second question on the emergence of artificial intelligence and how has that impacted things?
Yeah. So for the past decade plus, we have been hearing these stories of our members and the scams. It started, you can bundle them all up into imposters. It started out, I can remember back, it was Microsoft. The PC repair scams were some of those early emergence of these.
Right, yeah, you got a problem on your
You got a
PC, let me kind
virus
of log
pop
in.
up.
Yep, I can
And
remember those.
here, allow me to remote in and diagnose and take care
I think
of
there was a
that. And
documentary
let's pull
or
up
something
your online banking.
about a guy who was like flipping the script on those guys or something. I remember catching a little while back. Yeah.
Right. So, this is not new, the concept. It ballooned during COVID, though. And when they can go straight to the consumer and quickly get tens of thousands of dollars or more out of them, their focus has shifted away from, as you had mentioned, the skimmers. That didn't go away entirely, but it's far less lucrative for them. And so because card technology has gotten so much better with our chip and the tap features of that, counterfeiting that mag stripe on a skimmer, it's a lot of work for a lot less reward. And so they have shifted, and now they go directly to the source. And so
And catching
what
up with
they can
criminals,
do,
for law enforcement and banks, it's like playing a game of whack-a-mole.
mm-hmm,
Trying to stay, they're going to constantly move and try and stay ahead of it, and
right,
it's reactive
the,
on your end.
we are, yes, we're constantly one step behind
Yeah,
because we have to learn their tactic and then train, against it, train our team members, train our and educate our members, and try to mitigate as much as we can to identify what are those red flags and those indicators of what's really going on in the situation. So to see what they've been able to accomplish in the last decade without the use of AI, it is concerning what more they're going to be able to do. So the connections that start out so randomly, they're going to be actually able to very personally target their victims. And I've seen these presentations of where they're going to show a picture of your car, your license plate, parked in front of a place you might not want people to know you were at. You were never there, but that picture sure looks real. And you wouldn't want your wife to find out about that, would you? And so these extortion scams of wanting to not be exposed for something that's not true in the first place, but they can sure make a story out of it.
wow.
Additionally,
I would
just
have never thought about that, but boy, that could get criminals, a lot of money there.
we hear some dark stories about we know what's on your computer. We know you have maybe some illicit material on there, and we'll report you for that if you don't pay this fine to us. And so the way that they can target and just manipulate falsities and make it seem real, and extort people out of their money is very concerning. The scale at which they're going to be able to do that too. It's not an individual that has to spend 15 minutes on each victim.
Right.
They're going to be able to do that thousands of times over, and cast such a wider net to be able to, if I can try to get to 10 people in a day, just think AI can get to thousands, and how many out of that are going to fall for it. So the deep fakes too, the voices that they can imitate, the videos that you can't tell what's real in AI. There's such a blurred line anymore that they on the other end. So say you're working with somebody, and they set up a Zoom call with you. Well, they might be able to present themselves in a way that they're going to have features of somebody much more maybe traditionally trustworthy than what the actual scammer is, so they can just create a friendly outward appearance that's going to help them gain the trust of that victim. And in a simpler way, they can go to AI, and the language barrier is not an issue anymore, and they can
Right.
even say like, okay, I have a picture of my victim, I know who this victim is, help me compliment them and like find a way to connect with them, and AI will help them generate like, this person looks like they would be interested in this, and you could open a conversation like this. So it's going to help these scammers just break those barriers and build that trust in such a more effective way.
I'm really glad you went there with the voice, because I think kind of voice and video is kind of what kind of alarms me. The fact that they could, I've seen ads for even some of these AI platforms, they can take your picture, and if you've done live video, any kind of videos or
Mm-hmm.
things, like they can take your voice, clone it with AI, take a picture you've posted on Facebook, whatever, and then now they can make a video of you
Mm-hmm.
talking, doing whatever, and then they can go back to that old school, give me the gift card scam,
Mm-hmm.
and then create a 20-second video clip, age myself like the old Vine clips,
Mm-hmm.
and then like send that in a link instead of a text. And now it looks like you're actually asking somebody on a video chat, hey, can you go give me a $500 Visa card?
Right. Right. Yeah, it can
That
make
would be
it
so
so.
much more convincing than
Mm-hmm.
just a text message of going to
Mm-hmm.
get it.
Mm-hmm.
And how much more likely would somebody be to fall for that?
Right.
That's what's really scary. You know, your extortion one too. That's scary. How somebody could take something like that, because a lot of that information is public information. They don't need really a whole lot when you start going through people's
Mm-hmm.
names. You just get a name and a general idea where somebody's at. You can find out a lot of information.
Well, right. And all those surveys, that seemed fun on Facebook were just ways for them to collect so much information on you. So, uh, between social media, data breaches, and they can really create a profile very easily these days. And it is scary, but again, all all these scams I've talked about start with allowing them in by a phone call, by a text message, by an email that you respond to. You can set up barriers and keep them out and don't engage. And you
Hmm.
can save yourself a lot of this headache.
Yeah, I mean, we should state that we're not advocating for people to go out and just go live off the grid, unless you really want to, But your information's still out there, right?
It is, right.
Yep. All right. So I was also kind of curious what, at least in your opinion, what are some of the most frustrating scams that you see out there that people are falling victim to are?
Frustrating, I would say. These imposters of us are just very irritating. They make our job just that much more difficult because they they erode that trust that you have with your financial institution, and then it's like, well, what do I believe? And now it's harder for us to effectively contact our members and carry out good legitimate business. And so those are just frustrating for us. Um, Overall, you certainly the romance scams that continue to be shared eventually. Um, they generally will arise
You mean like
through,
find your Prince Charming from another country kind of romance scam?
well, more
Or like,
so more so. I mean, they start these these victims are good-hearted people seeking some genuine companionship,
sure,
through social
everybody
media.
deserves love.
Sure. And the online gaming market has really opened up more connections. So you can play games against, others in other parts of the country. And then they might say, hey, let's go take this conversation, over to WhatsApp. And then that develops from there. So you, I mean, anybody can create a Facebook profile and make it look very legitimate. And
So they're getting catfished, like that TV show
unfortunately,
Catfish.
hmm and it starts out innocent enough. The you know that relationship might kind of grow more quickly. They want to use that fiance term very very early on, and they're very complimentary. And again, these victims are genuinely looking for connections. But what will ultimately lead to is there is some crisis or emergency that they are going to come ask you for money. So my child has to have emergency surgery, and I just don't have the funds to pay for it. Or maybe they're
I'm
in
assuming
the
it probably usually starts kind of
military.
small, probably some small asks and builds up, and then
Sure,
boom, then there's a
yeah.
big
Kind
one
of test the
probably. Yeah,
waters,
yeah,
and
that would make
it seems
sense.
innocent enough. Or they're in the military and their money is tied up. You know, they can't access it, but man, they want so badly to come home to visit them. You know, to finally meet them in person. Can you help pay for their travel to get there? Well, yeah, they want to meet this person too, and so it just adds that emotional layer onto it. So it's difficult to be the bearer of bad news, not just that the money's been lost, but that relationship was not what they thought that it was.
Yeah, that could be very difficult.
Yeah, we're it puts us in a tough spot to have some very direct and blunt conversations with our members because we want them to stop. You know, we want them trust us, listen to us, or listen to family members, law enforcement. You know, run this past someone else that has your best interest and see if they think there's anything that seems off with it before you send more money to somebody.
Yeah, boy, that would be a really hard conversation to have with somebody,
Mm-hmm. It is.
especially if you're like that first person to try to have that conversation, or if that's that first time that light bulb starts to come on for them. They're like, wait a minute, I am spending a lot of money here, and there doesn't seem to be a lot coming back
Mm-hmm.
in anything. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that would be that'd be pretty painful to have to sit there and
And they keep them
be a part of that.
on the hook, you know, like they're just this close to getting, you
Oh
know,
yeah, I mean, and it's a
what they're
shame somebody
ultimately after.
play so deeply off of somebody's emotions like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what these criminals do.
Mm-hmm.
Find a weakness and exploit it.
Right. And the popularity with investing in crypto right now is opening the door for, of course, scams related to that. So there's a lot of legitimate activity that we see of our members investing, you know, funding their accounts through cards and ACH transactions, and they may send wires. But there's also a good amount of members trying to do these similar transactions, but they're funding accounts that they don't actually have ownership of, and they don't know that. So a lot of times this may start. Somebody might it might start very randomly, very innocent, but intentional by the scammer, and that grows. They kind of build their trust. Hey, I just want to share with you because I'm making really good returns on my crypto investing. I'd love to help you with it too. And it can start like, let's just try $500. Let's get you into it. And so seems relatively low risk, you know, but potential for a big reward. And so they can set these victims up with access into a portal that they can display what looks like their account and the money they're depositing into it, and then the activity of seeing the returns and seeing that grow very quickly. And so now they're intrigued
Well, it can
and, well,
look
I want to get
really
more.
promising
Heck yeah.
because I am by no means a crypto expert, but I know that there's a ton of different types of crypto, and that's a very complicated. Yeah, I know there's crypto wallets. I know that there's different ways to buy it and sell it and hold it and purposes for it. It's about as far as I know. But I know that that mystery around it probably plays into that a little bit, where people are like, well, I don't really know exactly what I'm doing, but if you're showing me I'm getting
But
good
this,
returns,
right.
and all I got to do is give you $500 in an account, that's an easy way in.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes all that kind of mystery and work out of it. So I'm not really surprised that somebody would fall victim to that.
Mm-hmm. And so from that point on, now you're in, you know, and it's like, well, my 500 got me here. And so now they're going to
You
try
think?
to help you figure out, well, What else do you have on deposit? How about your retirement account? Can you withdraw from that? Can you take out a home equity line of credit? I mean, the market is booming. Let's get you in. And so these victims will, try to find all sorts of money to get and
Yeah, your crypto is
invest
going to make
here.
more than what you'll pay
Right, the
that
returns
back.
are so
Like,
much
yeah.
better until the point that they're ready to cash out or take at least a significant withdrawal from it. Because along the way, they might be able to take some small withdrawals, and that just further legitimizes, that when I'm showing you on the screen, this is your account. If you want a couple thousand out of it, okay. Well, now you're at a point where you might feel, you know what, I'm happy with what I've made. I'm ready to take my money, my earnings, and I'm gonna put it back into my deposits. But then they're gonna hit you with, okay, well now you got to pay taxes on it to get it out, and there might be some commissions you have to pay on it, and so they're gonna bleed just that little bit more out of you. And when there's nothing left, they're gonna ghost you entirely. That portal they sent you to that you were watching your account, completely fabricated, manipulated by the scammer to show you what looks like your wallet, but everything was a sham. And you're not going to be able to get back in touch with them. Who you thought you were talking to is fictitious, and you were funding their crypto account. So it's a real dangerous, and it's a scam that can escalate, and you have that promise of a big payout, and so that's the hook that keeps them in.
Yeah, my piece of advice to people when it comes to that, there's no such thing as getting rich quick.
It's well, I mean, and it's so it's
There's
so
just not.
cliche if it
Like,
sounds too good to be true.
yep,
There's a reason that saying exists, and it applies
absolutely. About
every
the only way
day.
you're going to get rich quick is if you hit the lottery. And you got to play it. And your odds of winning are extremely, extremely bad. And you got your own set of problems if you win there. So,
And speaking of vulnerable parts of our community, on the other end is our youth, and they are a big target through social media of not so much investing, because that's not the angle they're going to hit them with, but make a quick buck with these work from home scams. So you might get contacted by the HR hiring representative, and they've got this job. We're going to send you your first check, and you can go buy your laptop and the supplies you need, and then just send us back the remainder of it. And so that check gets deposited, and money's sent back before that check bounces. And so our member that accepted the check, deposited it, is responsible for it. And so it's just lesson learned for anybody with a bank account. If you deposit a check, you better trust the person who's writing it to you, because if that check's not good, we are collecting from you.
that's a reason why some small businesses don't take checks. Some contractors don't take personal checks.
Right.
They'll only take them, cashier's checks and business checks and things like that. Because they got tired of people writing bad checks.
Right. And so another one, Instagram. So they will get contacted by an artist, and they'll really compliment the picture that they posted, and they want to do a sketch or a painting of it. And so they're going to pay them for the rights to use their photo for it, but they're going to send you additional money that once you cash that check and send it back to them, they're going to buy the supplies for it. So they need to get their paint or their pencils and stuff to do that. Again, that check, when it bounces, you've already sent them their payout from it, and you're left with a check that's getting returned out of your account. Also,
What kind of dollar amount are you typically seeing them do when it comes to that?
this is generally 500, 1,000, 1,500. It's
That's kind of what
generally
I
in
was
that
kind of thinking you
range.
were going to say
Yeah,
somewhere in there. Something that's probably believable enough
sure.
for teens, young
Right.
adults to be like, oh, that seems reasonable,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So
And
it's not too good to be true. Like, oh, they're going to offer me $10,000 for my photo. Like, you would
right,
hope they'd be smart enough to be like, oh, that's odd.
right. And again, just because checks are not as common and used by the younger generation, they're getting sent check images through the email. And so with remote deposit capture, they're taking their phone and they're taking a picture of their computer screen to deposit the check, not realizing that that's not a negotiable item. And so just the check kind of basic fundamentals of checks and how they're used is something we have to educate that that picture of it is not valid. Even if you have a physical check that you're taking a picture of, it may not be a good check. So you have to know who's sending it to you. And before you go spend any money out of it, you better allow enough time for that to clear.
Mm-hmm. Good points. Um, all right, so just to kind of wrap this up, you know, kind of love to have something that somebody can think about, actionable, because you mentioned vulnerable populations. You know, to me that makes me think of kids, teens, the elderly in our community, or people with disabilities, those kind of things who may, through a variety of reasons, may be more likely to miss whatever signs of a scam. What advice would you have for the people in their lives, caregivers, parents, guardians, friends, whoever's kind of around them? What advice would you have for them to help them help those people avoid being victims of scams?
I think just open conversation about it, awareness and having that trust with them that they're not embarrassed or ashamed to come to you if they think they might have fallen victim to something. So there's so much free education out there. And however you want to get it, if you want to go out to a website and read it, there's so many articles. Start with the FTC scam site. You start reading through them and you'll see the common themes, much of what we talked about today. Um, they're really woven through all of them. Another place I like to get information, there's actually a really good podcast through AARP, and it's called The Perfect Scam. And what
Oh,
they
interesting. I'll
do
have to check that one out.
is, they'll get victims to come on and tell their story. And these victims go into great depth explaining how it started, the psychology of it, and how they were able to be convinced of whatever it was, the lengths that they went to be involved in it and to get the money and participate, and then what the outcome was of it. And I really commend them for having the desire to get online, be vulnerable, and tell their story just to help others avoid falling for the same things. And the messages are very powerful. And if you can give 30 minutes a week, they usually drop them on Fridays and the new story. If you can just put it on in a car ride and just listen to it, you're going to just be better informed of what's really going on. And so when that opportunity or scenario comes to your attention or a loved one's attention, you're going to hear those red flags, those indicators of that that's going to help you pick up on what's really going on. And hopefully, you might be able to help them manage their finances, look for strange purchases on their debit card, what look like might be gift cards. You see a lot of $500, $1,000 purchases at those retailers that sell them. You know, you can go in and see racks of gift cards at so many places now. So keep an eye out for those kind of signs. And just, like I said, maintain that open and trust conversation with them and stay informed. We publish a lot of information, so if you follow CEFCU on Facebook, we do Tip Tuesdays and others related posts of emerging trends that we think is important to share out to help our members. We'll do Senior Sense, go out into the community to do live seminars with them and share that information. And so the information is out there. With just a little bit of time that you can devote to it, you can really be armed and much more savvy and less likely to fall victim to these.
Great advice. I know, especially when it comes to seniors, one of our partner agencies here is the Miller Center here in town, and Alicia Dalt over there is a very, very huge advocate for the seniors, does all kinds of different things, but that's a great resource for anybody who's got seniors in their life and things like that, or the seniors who want to be educated on any kind of topic. Alicia's down to bring any kind of education and topic in to help seniors, but that's a great place to go to try and get information. But I think those of us who are in our working years, who maybe have family members who are seniors, or we've got kids who are still in school, we're of that age and that generation where we grew up with computers, and a lot of these scams kind of started and they've adapted and changed. And I have no idea what the scams were before the computers. Mm-hmm. Maybe they did snail mail all the time. I have no idea. Mm-hmm. But, the way they target kids and seniors, and the different types of scams is just different. And like you said, we have to keep our eyes and ears open for those kind of things. And like what seems odd to us, which takes being actively involved in our loved ones' lives, So there's a good plug for anybody who's got aging parents or you got teens, have conversations with them, know what's going on, and have those really tough conversations, because I know that's a really hard one too, is have conversations about finances. It's like a taboo topic.
Yeah,
to have financial conversations.
It can be, yeah.
And I get it, like it's two strangers. Yeah. Most financial conversations totally kind of taboo and difficult to talk about. But if you're talking to your kids, you're talking to your parents, it really shouldn't be. That should be open and clear, and you should be picking up on any kind of serious red flags anyway.
And like you said, use the resources. There's no shortage of them. I know in Peoria County, even through our sheriff's office, there's a victim services coordinator, Amy Chanel. She is fantastic and just as motivated to help the community not fall victim to these. So whether it's your financial institution, your local organizations, like you mentioned, the Miller Center, law enforcement, there are so many outlets that you can find assistance with. So if you're uncomfortable having that conversation with a family member, maybe you can set up a connection for them with one of these other partners out in the community.
Absolutely. And seniors, elder abuse, Center for Prevention of Abuse is another partner agency of ours. So if something seems like it's bordering on that, somebody becoming a victim there's that avenue. But I think, the biggest thing to end it on is if something seems weird, the goosebumps, the red flags, the hair on the back of your neck, whatever you want to call it, like report it, raise the red flag, call
Mm-hmm.
the bank, call center, call law enforcement, whatever, ask the questions.
Right.
Very simply, ask the questions and go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah. Trust your instinct.
Yep.
If something feels off, you're probably right. That there's more to what appears. And so, like I said, take control of that communication. You don't have to immediately engage with that urgency that they want you to, and that's intentional. They want you to be panicked about it so that you're not really thinking straight, or you don't take the time to consult somebody else that you trust. There is not anything that urgent that doesn't give you a window of time to do that. And you, as the consumer, if you have fraud being performed on your account and you're not participating in it at all, there are a lot of protections for you against that. We have your back on that. We want to partner with you to recognize those suspicious transactions and stop them as quickly as possible. But don't let that fear lead you to go out and then engage in these gift card purchases and wire transfers and these things, because those are a whole different thing, that when you're performing the transaction, we don't have that same coverage to help get that money back for you.
Absolutely. Well, Cory, I appreciate you coming on, sharing, educating the public. You blew my mind on some of these things. So last thing I'll say to people is take care of your money, keep your money in your pocket, not the criminals.